So you may be wondering, where has Bakidou been? Well, let's take it back to March 2024.
Flashback.
Damn, that was a good public test. Wait, I got a DM from Omar. What does it say? Bro.
End of flashback.
Alright. I know it's not as bad as it seems, but let me tell you something. You're thinking, oh, this is easy. Combat remake easy. It'll only take a few months. Well, let me tell you no. Instead of getting to work, I got demotivated. I left the project for a few months before eventually coming back. Freak said something in the past that really stuck with me. That dude told me I was a developer with level 9,999 in strength, level 1 in durability. I code hard for a while and then take his news like some chub. Look, I get it. You want Bakidou. So damn right you're going to get it. In like 900 years. I eventually came back to the project after my 2 or 3 month break, and I pulled the most combat system out of my and tried to shove it in the game and hope it worked. I made completely useless systems and mechanics, which could have been coded after combat had been finished, or even after the game released. But no, I had a vision, alright. A f***ed one. You want a smooth movement system with nice walk animations that would make your mom cry? I coded it. I coded map destruction, a blood system, an injury system, a street side map system, a useless dodge mechanic that got scrapped anyway. What a huge waste of time. I coded every useless mechanic you can think of. Oh yeah, and that's not even mentioning I reorganized the entire game and recoded several other parts of it just because. Like basically nearly the entire game. Alright. Alright. Let's go. We went from Hanma to Bakidou to basically, nope, that's already bad. We went from Hanma to Bakidou to basically Bakidou 2, and it hasn't even ever released. Am I crazy? Maybe. But I have another word. I'm just a shit dev and kinda maybe a little stupid. Anyway, yeah, it was a tough time, and definitely some major shit decisions, okay? But look, I've turned over a new leaf. Kinda. Maybe. Holy shit. Alright. Damn. I thought things were finally looking up for me until disaster struck my personal life. I had to get a job. A small part-time one. But money constraints were tight, and I had slowly started going up from 2 days a week to 3, and then 4. I bit off way more than I could chew. Working at that job was all I could muster. I didn't even have time or energy to code the game, but shit still got coded. This is where most of the combat system and other parts of the game were recoded to fit my new frameworks for certain systems and mechanics, especially for the combat. So things still got done, but not as much as I had wanted. Before I knew it, an entire year had passed at that job without getting much done for the game. This frankly disappointed me, and so I quit in October 2025 to focus on Bakidou full-time. Yeah. It sounds like I'm reading this shit off a script. That's because I am. So then, after all of this, is the current Bakidou any good?
No.
Well, actually, it's pretty decent. Unfortunately, it's not where I want it to be. But it's good enough to release with some small fixes and adjustments. Some things in the game still need a lot of work, especially surrounding the combat and other quality of life features like the blood and map destruction. The counter system needs to be remade right now, and the old one I showed with the forced cutscenes was gutted. If you have any ideas for the new counter mechanic, Comment below. I want something that's interactive and fun, but I just don't know how to do that right now. I remade a lot of components within Bakidou and updated the code in a lot of places. Everything is a lot more organized and more updated with my current coding practices and habits. A lot of the code that Bakidou was using was still using Hanma code, which was complete spaghetti. But let's not get into that right now. I tried switching the code base over to use Rojo a few weeks ago, but it didn't work as great as I imagined it would. For any of those who don't know, Rojo is a tool which allows you to bridge the gap between the file system and GitHub. Version control with GitHub would have been great, but Rojo is too underdeveloped right now for transferring an entire already made project over. There aren't enough tools available to make it easy. Because of that, I abandoned it. I think Roblox would do great to add official GitHub support, but will they ever do that? If they do, it'll be the next 50 years because that's when they'll stop being assholes by limiting the engine because a phone made in 2015 can't support f***ing shaders. It should be up to the developer on what devices can play the game, not Roblox. I want to try using my YouTube channel more. I don't use it as much as I should. I mean, the last devlog was 2 years ago now. As you can tell, I'm not very good at this stuff yet. I just don't know how to structure the videos well, but I want to try. 2 years ago, the game could have released. It was ready, but here's the kicker. I'm afraid to death. I'm afraid to fail. This will be the first game I ever release to a larger audience. I mean, sure, you can count Project Grappler or Hanma, but the communities for those games were smaller. But if you never try, you're selling yourself out and failing before you even reach the starting line. I'm trying to learn that. Bakidou will probably have a lot smaller of a community than it could have been. And that's okay. But I believe in second chances. Even if the game releases and doesn't do very well at the beginning, I think I can recover it if I can just get some help this time around and do my reworks, content updates, and things like that. I have so much planned for this game and it's going to be amazing. I love this game with all of my heart. I don't want to give it up so easily. I understand all of these people and other developers from other games clowning on me and talking about how they've made 3 games in the time it's taken for me to make 1. Yeah, it is embarrassing, but I'm trying to come to terms with the mistakes I've made and grow as a person and as a developer. I'm only human. I'm not going to be perfect ever, but I think it's amazing that I've come this far all by myself. I mean, yeah, I've outsourced some things I couldn't do myself. I get help from Freak and Omar with ideas. They're basically my directors. I appreciate them. But the coding, the building, most of the VFX, sound design, UI work, etc. That's all me. I did that. I could have released this game way earlier and it would have been amazing if I did, but life just wasn't lining up for me to do that. Things happen, but I'm trying now and that's what matters. Sure, life does try to drag me down all the time, especially with all the remodels and stuff we're doing all the time inside of my house. So a lot of the time I have to step away, unfortunately, from game development for a little while. But I always come right back because the game holds a very special place in my heart. I don't want to just abandon it. I felt the game was very cluttered and all of the assets were just scattered about. None of it in organized areas. That's because when I made Hanma, I didn't give a damn about anything. Since Bakidou was built off of Hanma, that was essentially the last of Hanma that I fixed and removed. Now the game feels a lot cleaner and everything is organized like it should be. This reorganization obviously broke the entire game. So I had to go through and remake a lot of mechanics and features. Things like the jail system got completely recoded, NPC dialogue, food items, food shops, and a lot more. Eventually, I'll rework training equipment too. I took inspiration from the hiding minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's End of the Pit for the training machines. I drew up the lung sprites and made the UI for it. I just don't know what to do for the treadmill minigame. At first, I regretted the reorganization, but after doing it, I realized it gave me a chance to rework a lot of lacking areas in the game and allowed me to improve as a developer. Another thing that I love about doing all of this showed me was the power of OOP. If you don't know what that is, OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. Essentially, game code is represented as classes which have a constructor, properties, and methods which define the class's functionalities. In JavaScript, you can declare a simple class like this, but in Roblox, LuaU isn't a class-based or strongly typed language like TypeScript, so you have to define classes using metatables. Using OOP in this way, I was able to recode the game's hitbox system using a technique which is commonly used in FPS games that I researched about when working on a projectile path system which simulated gravity drop, wind alterations, and more. I saw the potential here for Bakidou to use this technique to allow for client-based hitboxes. Essentially what this technique does is the client performs the hitbox and then sends information about the hit to the server, information like the time that the client hit the target and the position the client thinks was a valid hit. The server still acts as a source of truth and verifies whether or not the information the client proposes is valid or not. The server essentially creates a list of positions of all humanoids as they move around the world. When a client sends hitbox information, the server rewinds time to where that humanoid was when the client thinks it hit them, accounting for network lag, using that data structure of positions. Using this method, I was able to get accurate hitboxes, although sacrificing security slightly. The current combat system has definitely improved over the combat that was in the March public test in 2024. There was a lot of mechanics that I originally had planned, but were all gutted and removed due to them being buggy, not being what I envisioned, or because testers didn't like them. I had originally planned the combat around the combat from Strongest Battlegrounds because I thought it was cool. I had planned up tilts, air combat, down slams, ground slams, which were never coded to begin with as they were removed early on. I did code camera locking, which was removed for being too buggy and easy to cheese fights with. I had planned all of these settings to make the camera locking completely customizable and off by default too, but it just wasn't going to work for this type of game. I liked how the combat looked when the character moved forward slightly when punching. Unfortunately, no one else shared this sentiment with me. After removing it, the combat feels naked since I've gotten so used to it being there. I wanted to add a perfect dodge mechanic inspired by Untitled boxing game, which would tie into the new counter system that I had planned. It went great at first and looked cool, but it was very buggy, didn't look right, and interrupted the flow of combat too much, so it was removed. I had envisioned a lot for the combat, but maybe it just wasn't meant to be in this game. Maybe I can add these features into Shadows of Turmoil whenever I work on it again, as it makes more sense to be in that type of game over this one. The rest of the things I recoded due to this reorganization was creating a back-end game module loader, which is what the loading screen says when joining. Moving away from little buttons on the ground to buy items to being more interactive, like having to talk to NPCs to buy training equipment and food, or to open the shop GUI. I also recoded the job and quest system, which were relabeled as tasks, but split up into types of quest, job, and commission, which all act similar with a few differences. This new task system allowed me to unite the similar code and keep track of data structures easier. You can also now track tasks under the health bar. There's so much more that was recoded, it would honestly take forever to go through it all and explain it. Things like a moderation system, anti-cheat, a new input system, etc. The character models were changed over to use Dogu 15, which is a R15 model which has 6 limbs that bend at the knees and elbows and keeps the R6 aesthetic. Due to this new character model, the previous character scaler had to be recoded to one that would work for the new model. This will allow me to easily add the muscle rigs I had sculpted in the past to be added in the future. A minor small addition to this new scaler is that the body parts are divided into groups so each group can scale the body parts within independently. The groups would be the upper and lower body, and then let's just say, for example, the right leg, and then each body part within that right leg. Doing it this way would allow me to easily scale limbs without affecting the scale of anything else. I plan to add character customization in the future, which would tie into this limb customization feature. My plans for Bakidou have always been the same. I want to release it. I know that I'm really bad about doing that, and trust me, it weighs on me very heavily. The root of the issue is the fear of failure and my perfectionism. But like I said earlier, you'll never know if you never try. I started development on Hanma in 2021 and then began reworking it into Bakidou in 2022. It's been a long 5 years for me and everyone else waiting for the game. I'm 22 now, and I've become a lot older, and responsibilities have begun weighing on me and delaying progress. But I'm still going to try and push through. My biggest regret will always be not releasing it in 2024 like I should have instead of doing that public test. There will always be bugs and issues, but that doesn't mean that they can't be fixed. I'm a very bad perfectionist, and so I try to work on the game to get it to a point where I can release it without bugs, or at least minimal bugs. That's just not possible and will never be. No matter what you're working on, whether it's a piece of software or a game, there will always be bugs. This behavior for me is what delays release. The first step in fixing something is to discover the source of the issue. Now I just need to solve it. Mark my words. Bakidou will release soon.
Not in 900 years, you asshole.
Thank you for watching and listening. I want to try making more devlogs, and we'll begin on the next devlog soon enough. You can follow development by joining the Discord server or by looking at the public dev Trello for Bakidou, which is also linked below. Peace.